Miss Salina. So, well, it's like two of you. Ms. Quintanilla, Judge Haggerty, and myself. Dr. Graham will be here shortly. Mr. Rivera, would you mind leading us in a pledge?
Where's the flag?
It's right there behind that pole.
Okay, everybody. If you're a veteran, you can do a hand salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're all very excited to be here in this building today, and in fact, we are going to break right now and take a tour of the building. I invite everyone in the audience who would like to join us. Feel free to join the tour. I think it's going to be wonderful. I know Linda and her team have been preparing for this for at least hours. So thank you very much for your patience. And Linda, we're ready for the tour. You are. Thank you all very much for your patience. Ms. Gonzalez, thank you and your team for the wonderful tour. We really enjoyed it and learned a lot. In fact, you even got a compliment from Judge Haggerty. So that's really saying something. Item 1. Item 1.4, approval of minutes, July 30th, 2015. July 30th, 2015 regular, July 19th, 2015 regular.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Mrs. Robles?
Aye.
Mr. Ruxer? Ms. Solis? Aye. Mr. Haggerty?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Fierro?
Aye. Item 1.6, open forum. The first guest we have is Raul M. Arispe.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. I have taken the liberty of being the representative of this building. I'm one of the senior members here, and I'm a counselor here. And first of all, I want to welcome all of you for being in this great facility. And thank you very much for building it for us. Thank you, the board. Thank you, Dr. Serrata. Thank you, Mr. Smith, Susana Rodarte, Linda Gonzalez, and all of you community who paid for it all. Thank you very much. We are very happy with the facility as it is. It since 1992, I think, more or less, we've been here, and over the years, we have expanded and not expanded for a while. But this new development is really positive for all of us. Our attitude is much improved. The students have received it very well. We're still in the process of making it better. You know, as you can see, the walls are not decorated yet, but we're getting there. We're going to put appropriate decorations and things. But I just want to tell you, welcome to the Alfredo de los Santos Student Services Center. And you're welcome here anytime. And our offices are open to you like they are to all the community. Thank you very much.
Beautiful facility. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Our next guest is Mr. Hernandez. Mr. Hernandez, please. Welcome, Mr. Hernandez. There's a lot of clapping today.
What's that? Good evening. My name is Rudy Hernandez. I'm the Faculty Senate Vice President representing the adjunct faculty. And basically what we want to do is just kind of come and explain some things to you and kind of give you an idea of our position on things. Adjunct faculty, as sometimes they're referred to, are part-time faculty. And I know that sometimes it's kind of easy to sort of think of them as people who work in other places and have other incomes. But, you know, just to give you an example of what we're actually talking about, there are 450 full-time faculty teaching in the college, and there are 1,026 adjunct faculty teaching at the college. So it's more than double the full-time faculty. And the adjunct faculty, the part-time faculty, help the college considerably by teaching in the afternoons, the evenings, the weekends. And what that does actually is help make the college competitive with these other so-called colleges that come in here and say that they teach the full-time worker in the El Paso community. Well, we teach the full-time worker in the El Paso community. So it's the adjunct faculty that are teaching, and they're giving as much and as good instruction as anybody. They don't cheap out on what they're teaching. They do their very, very best to teach the full-time people of the community of El Paso so that they can keep working full-time and go to school at the El Paso Community College on evenings, afternoons, and on weekends. So we have 1,026 of them, and we have some of them here. If you all could just raise your hand or stand up. And so we wanted to kind of let you all know and kind of ask you to remember that even though they're part-time faculty, you know, they're giving their full attention to the students that come to the college, to the full-time workers that come to the college in the evenings and the afternoons, and allow us to compete with these other colleges. Now, in the past, the college and the board has given adjunct faculty the same kind of raise that everybody else got, the full-timers got, which we were very much appreciative, and we really, you know, felt that showed the college's appreciation to us. Now, this year we know that the state cut a lot of funding, okay, and we know that happens, but we just wanted to kind of let you all know who we were, let you all know that we play an integral part and an important part of teaching the students here at the El Paso Community College, and ask you, whenever ever possible, that you all keep us in mind to the same extent as the full-time faculty. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you all.
Item 1.7, presentations by individuals, groups, and organizations. Item 1.7.1, Chief Jose Ramirez, El Paso Community College Police Department, will make a presentation on the implementation plan for guns on campuses, Senate Bill 11, 2015.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Serrata, Mr. Fierro, members of the board, cabinet, and distinguished audience. My name is Jose Ramirez. I'm the chief of police for the college district. And this afternoon, I'm going to do a presentation on two laws, the open carry law of weapons and the concealed handgun carry law of weapons at all the El Paso Community College facilities. Senate Bill 11, concealed handgun law. On the 13th of June 2015, Governor Abbott signed Senate Bill 11 into law. This legislative bill will allow concealed handgun carry of handguns on El Paso Community College campuses. This, however, is not effective until August the 1st of 2017, so we have some time to prepare for that. This is important for us to remember this. And we're going to see this date again. House Bill 910, the open carry handgun law, also passed, which allows citizens of Texas to openly carry their weapons in public. This is effective January the 1st of 2016. You know, that's coming upon us very quickly. However, this bill does not apply to our institution, as outlined in Senate Bill 11. So we are not going to be able, or we're not going to be affected by this law, but there are some things that we're going to have to do. Most importantly, for the immediate future, again, it's imperative that everyone understand that the new concealed handgun law, again, I repeat it, is not effective on the college campuses until August the 1st of 2017, okay? The open carry law, though, will not be allowed here on any campus. But in order for us to enforce this, there are several things that we need to do. So the implementation plan for this is for us to be ready and post signs informing everyone that the open carry law is not applicable here to EPCC. It is against the law to openly carry a handgun on any EPCC property. The marketing office will take the lead in a strong marketing campaign to inform the EPCC community of the new law. I've already conferred with the marketing director, Joyce Cordell, and we're in agreement that we'll be working together to inform everyone of these laws. Signs informing the public about the open carry on handguns will be in place by November the 30th of this year. Again, the dates are important because by the time we come back from the break, the signs have to be already up. They have to be posted. And with this, like I say, I've also worked with Mr. Lovato. We've already gotten some estimates as to the cost of the signs, and we've obtained a count of how many signs we're going to need district-wide. Mr. Lovato is in agreement that this date can be met, and we shouldn't have any problems as far as posting the signs and having the signs already in place by the 30th of November of this year. The language of the signs, I don't know how easy you can read this, it's kind of small. But basically, we added the word warning. That's not in the actual law, but the rest of the language is. This is the language straight from the law. We cannot deviate from the actual language that's already written into the law, in both English and in Spanish. And the signs have to be two separate signs. It cannot be all placed in one. It has to be two signs. Okay, so that covers the open carry law as far as the openly carrying of weapons. The second law that we're going to have to deal with, and this is the one that we have some time, is the concealed handgun law. The plan for this law, or for us to be in compliance, is during the spring of 2016, we will be ready, and it'll be finalized by February of 2017. This will give us 6 months before the start of the August 1st deadline as far as the implementation of the plan. I started with this just to keep everybody mostly aware of the timelines, but now the different steps that we're planning on taking. And these steps are steps that we came up with, me and my staff and other members of the college. And these can be modified. You know, again, this is just a plan. For this particular section of the law, we still have some time, but it'll be as follows. First of all, this is important language also. The implementation plan limited reasonable gun-free zones in unique campus locations. The El Paso Community College Police Department will consult with key stakeholders to work on a successful implementation of the new law on all EPCC campuses. Stakeholders include students, faculty, staff, administrators, trustees, and others to be identified. In the others to be identified, we're going to include all the early college high school principals and their staff, so they can provide input as to what zones we're going to be designated as gun-free zones. Getting a little bit ahead of myself, all the early colleges that we have on the district property will be designated as gun-free zones. The recommendation, like I said, is for the early college on the EPCC campuses to be designated as gun-free zones. The bill allows and prohibits the carrying of a concealed handgun on the premises of a secondary school maintained by an institution of higher education. That means us, because the high schools that are out there in our community, they don't really have to worry about this law because it's already covered by that. But we have to cover the high schools because they're in our property. And for that, we are going to designate them gun-free zones, and we are going to post signs indicating and informing everyone of this fact. How will gun-free zones be designated? These are some of the questions that we're going to have to answer once we put together the task force. What distances will be established in and around the gun-free zones? And what signage will be posted? Here we have the locations, the language, even the color of the signs. What colors do we want to go with? Okay, something that'll stand out, that'll catch the attention of everyone, so that people don't make a mistake and come in here with a weapon, enter a gun-free zone with a weapon, and then they end up getting arrested. So we want to prevent that as much as possible. And for that, we're going to put together this task force, like I said, and inform everyone of everything that we need to do. The marketing office will take the lead in a strong marketing campaign to inform the EPCC community of the new law. And then we'll also partner with UTEP to work on establishing consistent gun-free zones. As we know, a lot of our students here attend UTEP also, and it's important that they receive basically, if not the identical message, a message that is very similar, so that they don't get confused, that what they can do something at UTEP and they can't do it here. We want to try to eliminate that. Again, we're going to try to be as friendly as possible. We still need to enforce the laws, but we need to inform people of what is a violation and what is not a violation. That's our main objective. as well as keeping everyone safe. You know, we don't want any incidents here at the campus. Number 6, the constituency groups will participate and provide input on all aspects of the implementation plan. This will be accomplished through the use of emails, meetings, forums, and other marketing methods. If anyone has suggestions, you know, we're going to be taking suggestions as to what other methods we can use to bring people together and provide input for the implementation of the policies. And then the college policies and procedures will be written, disseminated, and implemented upon board approval. This will be the last step. Once we identify everybody and we, like I say, all the other steps that I just finished covering. Now, one thing that everyone has to keep in mind is that the law still has requirements as far as an individual carrying a concealed weapon. Okay. You still have to have these minimum requirements. Being a legal resident of Texas or otherwise eligible for non-residence license, being at least 21 years old, unless the person is an honorably discharged member of the military who meets all other requirements, and then generally not having been convicted of or charged with criminal activity. Those are still some of the requirements. There's more. But those are the requirements for an individual to be able to qualify to carry a concealed handgun. Okay. The others are being capable of exercising good sound judgment for handgun use and storage, and passing a mental health check, submitting fingerprints, paying a license fee, passing a criminal history background check, and showing evidence of handgun use proficiency. These are the requirements as established by the law. Okay, so again, you know, to make everyone a little bit more ease, leave everyone with a little bit more ease, is that not just anyone is going to be able to carry a handgun. Okay, you still have to meet these requirements. Okay. And the criminal penalty for unlawful carrying of a weapon on college property is a Class A misdemeanor. Okay, punishable by up to a year in jail and or a maximum fine of $4,000 per each offense. So if an individual gets arrested for this offense on Monday and he comes back on Tuesday, that's a separate offense. Each and every time, it's a separate offense. Okay, so it's a serious penalty. Okay. Now there's certain exceptions as to the law, where an individual will be able to carry handguns. One will be, for example, at this meeting. Okay, and the meeting will cover any location where a public meeting is being held. For example, this location would be an exemption to the law. Okay, because it's a public meeting. The other is sporting events. Once we post signs, but the signs have to be posted. If we do not give proper notice, then it is not an offense. We cannot make an arrest. Thus, this is why it's important that we post the signs as quickly as possible and that we prepare for that. Okay, so at all our sporting events, the baseball fields, softball fields, then those will be also covered under the law, and people will not be able to carry weapons in those locations. Now, the penalties against us, the institution EPCC, it says Senate Bill 273 prohibits a state agency or a political subdivision from wrongfully posting notice excluding a concealed handgun license holder from carrying a handgun and to make an agency or subdivision found violating the prohibition civilly liable. What does this mean? Students may not be prohibited from carrying a concealed weapon in the classroom by any faculty member. Syllabus cannot prohibit a student from exercising the right to carry a concealed weapon. You know, I know that some instructors add additional information on their syllabus. This cannot be one of them. An individual instructor will not be able to place anything on a syllabus indicating that prohibiting the carrying of a concealed handgun by somebody that is licensed properly. And no sign may be posted contrary to the law by any member of our institution. This is very important, and this is where we're going to ask everyone in the El Paso Community College community to help us. that if you see something, some sign like this being posted, it has to be removed. You know, where the institution is the only one that is authorized to post a sign with the approval of the board, no one else. No one else. Now, the penalties against EPCC for not complying with the Senate Bill 273, for violating the law, is wrongful exclusion of concealed handgun license holder. That is the title. The penalty will not be not less than $1,000 and not more than $1,500 for the first violation. That would be a penalty against us, against EPCC. And not less than $10,000 and not more than $10,500 for the second or subsequent violation. Each day of a continuing violation constitutes a separate violation. So each day, if we find a sign and we don't remove it promptly, that is another day, an additional day that we can be potentially facing a penalty of this amount. Complaints can be made to the Attorney General, and then all the violations must be cured within 15 days after receiving the complaint. Again, meaning that once we receive a complaint that a sign has been wrongfully posted, we have 15 days. I mean, really, we should take care of it immediately so that there's no issues later on. If the Attorney General determines that legal action is warranted and that the state agency or political subdivision has not cured the violation within the 15-day day period, they may sue to collect civil penalties. This of course, is after they do an investigation. But they may initiate a lawsuit against us for not curing the violation. Okay. In summary, and this is going to conclude the presentation, the open carry law, it's effective in January the 1st of this coming year, which is quickly coming upon us. The open carry of handguns or guns is not allowed on EPCC property. Signage must be posted to be enforceable, and we're already working on that. The person must be licensed to carry a gun, whether openly or concealed. If they are not, then we will enforce the laws like we've been doing, up to this point for unlawful carrying of a weapon. And then the warning signs must be posted to provide notice of areas where guns are not allowed. And these we're going to be calling gun-free zones. So we have to post those signs. And like I said, we're already working on those too. And then the concealed gun law go into effect on August the 1st of 2017. Again, so for this, like I said before, we still have some time. So we need to, we're already preparing. We need to do a lot more, but luckily we still have time. And then violations against EPCC are investigated by the Attorney General's office. And then if there is a violation, we have 15 days to cure the violation. If not, then the civil penalties commence. And finally, I just want to summarize by saying, rest assured that we, the police department, will create a task force with key stakeholders to work on a successful implementation of the new laws for our institution, with the goal of creating a safe learning environment for our community. For us, as for all of you, as I'm sure, the safety and well-being of the EPCC campuses, the community, is at the forefront of everyone. We come here to study, to learn. We want to be at ease. We don't want any incidents. We take action quickly. We don't let things get out of hand, and that's how we can keep control. So again, I thank you for your attention.
Chief, thank you very much. It was very informative. I have two questions for you.
Yes, sir.
The first one is, are you including in the stakeholder meetings anybody from Mr. Dunbar's office?
Yes, sir. We will.
And the
Yes, sir.
second one is, I assume you're already working on a budget on what this is going to cost us for our next cycle.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Someone else's question?
Chair.
Mhm.
Chief, thank you so much. I
Yes, sir.
don't envy your task that's ahead of you, but I know that you and your task force will do a good job. On these gun-free zones, right now, I just want to make sure I understand. Right now, the early colleges have been designated for sure gun-free zones. Will there possibly be more areas that are going to be identified as gun-free zones? And that's what
Yes.
you're going to do with the stakeholders. I just want to make sure so I can tell my constituency.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, if I can elaborate briefly on, so child care centers, also gun-free zones. There's lots of direction and advice on certain labs being gun-free zone, in particular if there are chemicals that are explosive should a discharge occur. So, but they have to be individually recognized as gun-free zones. So all the signage that Chief referenced, all of the literature that we put out to the community will have to designate. It can't be, we can't just say science labs.
Okay,
We have
it
to say
has to
this
be
science lab in this building, etc.
Okay.
Right.
And I'm sure you or someone from legal will check into, because a colleague was telling me that where there's federal monies involved, it's like where you're doing research, you have a federal grant that might exclude or make it as a gun-free zone as well. So I would just make sure that that's always looked into.
Okay.
Second, are there going to, does an individual who has gone through the state vetting system and gotten a license, will they be required to have an actual license on them at all times to be able to show that they are rightfully carrying the gun?
Yes, they will. That's our requirement right now.
That's a requirement. Okay.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And then what about lockers? As far as will there be lockers provided to be able to stow the guns if they can't bring them in?
Yes, I believe that that'll be part of the plan. Like Dr. Serrata just mentioned, if we're going to make our chemistry labs gun-free zones, then it's in our best interest to have a place for the student to go ahead and at least give them the opportunity to lock their weapon, so that they don't go in the classroom with their weapon. So yes, ma'am, there will be some lockers. We still haven't identified where, how many, how we're going to secure them, or how we're going to run the operation per se. But yes, yes, there will.
Any other questions? Not to be facetious, Chief,
Yes, sir.
but we keep using the word students.
Mhm.
I would assume that as long as a instructor qualifies, that they can too, they also can be in the classroom.
Yes, sir. They can. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can do that. Yeah, we can certainly include community members. It's very important. We do have a large portion of the visitors here can include community members, so we can do that. Yes, sir.
Okay. And no other questions? Chief, thank you very much for your time.
Yes, sir.
Very
Thank you.
Very informative.
Thank you.
Item 1.7.2, Ms. Elizabeth Odine Ryan, Executive Director, Human Resources, and Ms. Olga Chavez, Director, Diversity Programs, will present the College District with the 2015 Higher Education Excellence in Diversity HEED Award.
Board members, Dr. Serrata, Cabinet, and fellow colleagues. It gives me great pleasure. I'm Olga Chavez, like he said, Director of Diversity Program, and I've had the opportunity to work with Liz Ryan regarding our HEAT Award. So I will turn this over to her. We'll give an explanation, brief explanation of the HEAT Award and what it means to El Paso Community College. Thank you.
Thank you. The El Paso Community College received the 2015 Higher Education Excellence in Diversity HEED Award from the Insight into Diversity magazine, the oldest and largest diversity-focused publication in higher education. As a recipient of the annual HEED Award, a national honor recognizing U.S. colleges and universities that demonstrate an outstanding commitment to diversity and inclusion, EPCC will be featured along with 91 other recipients in the November 2015 issue of Insight into Diversity magazine. This is the third year that EPCC has been named a HEED Award recipient. This is a national award that recognizes schools for their comprehensive approach to diversity and their efforts in making their campuses accessible. in all meanings of that word to all groups of underrepresented students, faculty, staff, and administrators. The HEAT Award process consists of a comprehensive and rigorous application that includes questions relating to the recruitment and retention of students and employees, and best practices for both continued leadership, support for diversity, and other aspects of campus diversity and inclusion. Here's a map of all the schools that received the HEAT Award. As you'll see in the far left corner, El Paso Community College. We are one of 3 institutions in Texas and one of 10 community colleges nationwide to receive the HEAT Award. That's something to be very proud about. I'd like to focus your attention on the middle of the screen, the Spirit of Diversity logo in the first circle, in the middle circle. That is a new logo that the Diversity Council has voted on and approved for the diversity department here for the college. And the actual diversity logo was created by one of our work study students, Edgar Prieto. So we're real proud about that. But this accomplishment is made possible through the dedication from faculty, staff, students, and community members who wholeheartedly give of their time to promote diverse and inclusive activities at the college. Diversity programs led by Director Olga Chavez has over 100 volunteers on average for large events who help to ensure the success of each event. In 2015, diversity programs led many successful events such as Black History Month, Student Culture Bowl, Women's History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month. They promote diverse speakers. They support a free legal clinic for all veterans. And one of the most recent success stories of how the college has positively impacted the community was an idea that came out of the Diversity Council, was the Buddy Walk. The Buddy Walk was established in 1995 by the National Down Syndrome Society to celebrate Down Syndrome Awareness Month in October and to promote acceptance and inclusion of people with Down syndrome. The college family and community embraced the Buddy Walk, raising scholarship for students with disabilities. It has been so successful that a local nonprofit has adopted it. And to our knowledge, this is the only type of scholarships for students with disabilities. In 2010, the diversity programs began to submit a climate of diversity survey throughout the district for all faculty, staff, and students. In the past 5 years, we can see results of our efforts to promote diversity and inclusion and awareness are working. For example, one of the questions is, I'm knowledgeable about the culture of different groups. That has increased by 17%. In 2010, 69% agreed. Just recently in 2015, that number has risen to 86%. This is a little hard to see, but I'll end our presentation. This is a copy of an ad that we will be placing in the November 2015 edition of the Insight into Diversity magazine. And we plan to return in November and present you with the actual HEAT Award and a copy of the magazine. And we want to thank you for the opportunity to share the outstanding successes we have accomplished as a college. The HEAT Award commends the work that we as a college family have been working on as we continue to spread the spirit of diversity. We especially want to thank President Dr. Serrata and Ms. Josette Shaughnessy, Interim Vice President of Administration and Financial Operations, for their continued support in diversity programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Item 1.7.3, Ms. Olga Chavez, Director of Diversity Programs, will make a presentation on Hispanic Heritage Month activities.
Welcome, Ms. Chavez.
Thank you, Mr. Pietro. Change hats now. Like to thank you again for this presentation. By popular demand, I promise that I'm going to keep it to a few minutes. I won't elaborate, but I think it's very important that we share with you what is transpiring is every year, this is our 14th year of Hispanic Heritage. Okay. First of all, you'll see a calendar of events, and our theme is the untold story, education, enrichment, engagement, and evolution of America. We started with this theme, and we were very fortunate enough to have a student involved in our artwork. I will go back to the events that we're having, but I wanted to share with you this billboard, and I asked the student to come. Angel Ortiz, would you please stand up? He's a student at the El Paso Community College. He's a graduate. He's an alumni now, and he's now attending New Mexico State. And we're very proud of him because he helped us with this, and along with Michael Thornton, who's the instructor, who had a competition, and Angel won. So we thank you so much for being part of this again. You know, I get the opportunity to come and present this and take, get the glory, I guess, of being up here. But it could never be done without the volunteers that I've had and our committee members in times past. 14 years of committee members and people who have helped. I want to recognize, too, one of the members is not here today. They were from the very beginning with me, and that's Luz Roberts. I don't think Luz came this evening because we had an event all day today, and so she probably took the time off today. But the other member who has been here from the very beginning, who is alumni employee, shall I say, is Jaime Aragon. Jaime, will you please stand? He has come through and been here even after he's gone. Thank you, Jaime.
That's
As
a
we
great
can
shirt Jaime has on, by the way.
I know he wouldn't share. He didn't want to conform. I want to also mention people that are here this evening. Al Arvizo, if you would please stand. Rebecca Bell, Kathleen Bombach, Michelle Chavez, Oscar Macedo, Alex Hernandez, Jorge Rodriguez, Michael Thornton, who had to leave, Lee Vasquez, and Carlos Rivera, President of AF, the Air Force veteran. If you would all please stand. Let's give them a round of applause for all that. Thank you so much. Again, they're one of a lot of people who have done so much for us in this event. These events, actually. I want to start out September 16th, which was today. We had an awesome event at Rio Grande. It was spearheaded by James Valdez and Miss Farah, Mayela Farah. They did outstanding work, and we had a lot of participation today. I'm sorry those that have missed it, but we have a lot more that we hope that you can participate and be part of. We're excited on September 23rd. We're going to have several events. At Valle Verde, we're going to have a fall festival. I want to apologize. I'm going to go back. Sorry, group. But I want to mention something, too, about the billboard. If you notice the billboard, the lady that is standing with Angel Ortiz is our own Miss Arvis Jones. Arvis, would you please stand? Arvis has been very instrumental in this person's life and with our students. So I did not want to forget that. That's what happens with age. You forget a few things. I'm going back to the 23rd is we're going to have our fall fiesta, and along with that, the people in the campus life have been extraordinarily helpful and collaborative. They helped us all day today. We were part of them, and they're going to continue to help us on the 23rd for their fall fiesta. In addition, we're going to have some read-ins by faculty and staff, poetry, and stories that will be given from 11 to 1. So the whole day is taken from early morning all the way till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We are going to have a little blurb from Mr. Sam Martinez during that period of time. And Mr. Sam Martinez will be joining us for our basic. Actually, he's coming at 7 o'clock in the evening at the Administrative Service Center. And Mr. Martinez was an FBI agent, ex-FBI agent, and he, and with three other individuals, a plaintiff that we're bringing all three. That is Matt Perez and Jill Hill Mireles. They are going to be coming here, and they are going to tell all about their case. And Mr. Martinez is wrote a book about this called Systemic Evil. So we emphasized a lot of our students to go, a lot of our faculty to go. With the help of Alex Hernandez, he has a committee who has been talking a lot with our instructors. I thank Steve Smith for having all of our deans and people go to your sessions so that we could really promote the authors and the speakers that we are bringing. October 7th, we have made this a day for the veterans. And I would like Mr. Carlos Rivera to stand again. Mr. Rivera is very active in our community with our veterans, and he is the president of the Air Force Veterans, and we're very proud that he's going to be part of this. He's spearheading this. We're recognizing veterans on October 7th, and we're having exhibits there from many of the, individuals are bringing exhibits. And so it's because of him and his group that we're going to have a very successful event. We're also going to have the film A Class Apart. So, Mr. Rivera, thank you so much again for being part of that.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
As you can see, we ended October 14th with a mentors dinner. I've also included an invitation. My understanding that many of you will be out of town, but we hope that you can let other people know in your businesses to attend, and we hope our cabinet can come. These are our past mentors. As you can see, from 2007 all the way to 2014, we have very renowned individuals who have been our mentors in times past. So this year, we are recognizing Senator Jose Rodriguez and Representative Mary E. Gonzalez, who will be our mentors for this year, along with the recipients for a scholarship that I'll show you in just a second. And our keynoter, again, an alumni of El Paso Community College, Alfredo Conchardo, and he is an El Paso alumni, journalist, and author. Midnight in Mexico, A Reporter's Journey Through a Country's Descent into Darkness. It's told that they're thinking of making this into a movie, so we're very privileged to have him, and Angela Concherga will be our MC. And to kind of round out the evening, we are having a scholarship or two given out that evening. We're inviting the recipients to come along with their families, and this is for $1,000. We are so excited about all the events. We thank you very much for always supporting it. I've seen many of you at past events. I'm sorry that you can't make it to the 14th, but hopefully you can make it to some of the other ones that we're having throughout the month. Thank you, Dr. Serrata, Mr. Fierro, and board for hearing me this
Thank you,
evening.
Mrs.
And
Johnson.
thank you,
And
committee
thank you
members.
for your team. Thank you very much.
Item 1.7.4, optional presentations will be made by the presidents of the Classified Staff Association, the Professional Staff Association, the Faculty Association, and the Student Government Association.
evening. Welcome.
Thank you. EPCC President Fierro, Board of Trustees, Dr. Sharata, faculty, staff, students, members of our community. First of all, with all due respects, I'd like to congratulate our today's date, 16 de septiembre, 16th of September, as Mexican Independence Day. It's a good day for indigenous in 1810 that Miguel Hidalgo threw out the grito and started the Mexican independence from Spain. So we want to congratulate our sister city next door, Juarez, and definitely the mother country of Mexico for their Independence Day today. I'm Dan Gaitan. I'm president of El Paso Community College Professional Staff Association. PSA just completed its review for educational assistance through our EPCC PSA Staff and Student Scholarship Fund. These funds are generated throughout the year, throughout activities that we conduct for that year. There was no PSA applicant this year, but there were 50 students applying. So if you can think of www.epcc.edu at the end, there's a PSA, and within that, there's a web interface for applying for the scholarship. 50 students did come through. There was no PSA, as I said, but there were 6 full-time students that were selected to receive this award. We did call and mention to them to make it tonight because we were going to mention their name. One of them is Daniel R. Ortega, Luis A. Gonzalez Lavin, Laura M. Martinez, Amanda M. Sanchez, Isaac Quintanar, Efrain Morales Jr. Congratulations to these students, and we wish them all the best success in their educational endeavors. We thank the PSA's Educational Committee and its chair, Ms. Leticia Urenda, for their hard work, as we especially want to thank our CIO, Dr. Giron, for the tremendous support she gave us, especially in dedicating web service of Mr. Aaron Flores. We want to thank our financial aid folks for processing the award and gets this money, these $250, into the pockets of our students as quickly as possible. We hear back from students that it helps them out. So every little bit helps, right? We also want to thank Dr. Serrata for extending review of grievance procedure 3.43.02.10. It's very important to give us the opportunity, as administration has been given the opportunity to write these new guidelines and to give us the time and opportunity as we digest them and see what impact and stuff they'll have. And we appreciate that extra time we've been given there. September will begin our second blanket drive in conjunction with the Sheriff's Department. So we're going to be having blankets that we're going to be picking up to keep El Paso warm. We also met with Evergreen Representative Michael Mizrahi yesterday, and we are very supportive of a plan to implement the hybrid parity recommendation to fix our compression within salary ranges problem that we have in there. Thank you for your granting us the time to speak to you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Gaitan. Welcome, Dr. Ramirez.
Thank you
I
so
noticed you had
much.
applause as your way walking up here.
Oh,
Congratulations.
sure. Yes. First of all, I would like very much to thank Mr. Hernandez for representing our adjuncts so ably and so passionately. And our adjuncts are an integral part of the academic process, and we appreciate them very much. Out of deference to Dr. Lin's presentation, we will refrain from comment on the issue that's foremost in our minds, and that is the issue of compensation for faculty. We have heard many explanations from various sources, and quite frankly, we still have no complete understanding of how our compensation will be determined. So we hope that by next month we can discuss it intelligently. And at this moment then, I want to end the shortest address I have ever given to this board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 1.8, communications, none. Item 1.
One second, we're going to jump to item point 10.2.2. And then after that item, we'll go into executive, please.
Item 1.10.2.2, as part of the President's report, Dr. Jeff Lane, Executive Vice President, Evergreen Solutions, LLC, will present an update on the job classification and compensation study.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have prepared a short presentation to share with you this evening about our progress. There were a number of items that we touched on when I met with you last, I believe month before last, but we're at the point where we have additional information to share. I'd like to recap this evening a few of the points that we covered last time, and then move into the new material. So we'll begin again with talking very briefly about the objectives of the study, some of the process components, share with you again some of the concerns that the employees expressed to us, review a little bit of the market information, and then turn the majority of our time this evening to discussing the finding and improvements, the recommendations, and the next steps. You may recall at our previous meeting we were able to share with you information about the process, about the market data. We were able to introduce some of the ideas that we had been working with the administration on in regards to the staff, but we had not completed our work on faculty. And based on the progress that we made with the staff, we wanted to replicate the same type of analysis for faculty, as well as create as much equalness or equity, if you will, between the staff and faculty in regards to the recommendations. And I have that information to share with you this evening for your review as well as for your comment. Process really began with us being charged with looking at your compensation classification among your full-time employees. And so the study was to look at how you compensate people, internally as well as externally. Internally taking into account if I perform similar work of someone else that's present within the college, even if I have a different title, am I being compensated in a similar manner? And then the second piece being externally, if I were to seek work within the community or within the state of Texas at another academic institution or even in southern New Mexico, would I make more, would I make less, or would I make about the same that I make here at EPCC? Based on those pieces of information, and it was joined with the employees being good enough to complete a survey about their jobs, we were able to assess where you're at versus the market, as well as how good of a job the college has done in describing, documenting, as well as organizing the work that your employees perform. And I have some of that information to share with you and shared some of that with you previously. The components that are remaining after this evening is we'll continue to work on finalizing the job descriptions. We're working with your cabinet in regards to the final solution elements. We'll be working with your cabinet on refining the job descriptions and then redistributing those out to the managers that are present in the field as well as employees. We will make some recommendations on the Fair Labor Standards Act, who should receive overtime and who should not, based on those adjustments that have been made in the study. And then finally, we'll conclude our efforts by doing some training with your staff to teach them how to maintain the system or how to utilize the tools that we have utilized in this process, so they're able to do that going forward into the future. We had a very good participation rate, and one thing that I shared with the cabinet today, and I believe Michael has been sharing with the staff throughout this week, is we probably had more employee meetings here at EPCC than any other institution we've worked with in the last several years. people really came out and attended the meetings that we had as part of this process. There were 120 separate employee meetings spread across each of your campuses. Roughly 82% of your employees completed their survey about their job. 71% of your supervisors provided feedback on what the employees provided to us. There were 23 supervisor-employee combinations that we reached out to verify the information that they provided. The rest was very sound, very solid, didn't need any type of re-verification. And there have been 121 questions as of July of 2015. The questions, as you can imagine, since July have primarily been, when are you coming back, and what's happening next, and how soon will I receive my raise? And so we didn't count those in the 121. These would be 121 substantive questions about their job, the process, or what's going on within the marketplace as a whole. The outreach process went on now almost a year ago. And we met with employees in those 120 sessions. We asked them a series of 11 questions. And what appeared in almost every single session, or reoccurred in every single session, employees are proud to be here. They're proud to be part of this community. They're proud to be part of the mission that EPCC utilizes. They are proud to be part of the team, if you will, that's present in this organization. Employees consistently, throughout those 120 meetings, reiterated that they have faith in the leadership that's present here, and that's not something we hear many places, as well as they feel like that the leadership is student-focused and down deep really cares about employees. And I can tell you again, in doing this work all over the country for almost 20 years, it is rare that we hear that in a resounding fashion across all the groups that we conduct. There may be pockets of happiness or approval on the job being done by leadership, but it's very rare that we hear it to the extent that we have here at EPCC. Some of the concerns that the employees expressed is they are worried that the pay could be more competitive. They are worried about certain campuses may pay more than another. They are worried that jobs might be slightly different if I'm at a smaller campus versus a larger campus, or in a smaller program versus a larger program. All of those things being fairly common in the two-year institutions that we work with throughout the country. Another concern being that employees feel like that I come to EPCC and where I start, at least on the staff side, is basically where I end up. That there's not a lot of mobility or movement from a pay standpoint here in the organization over time. And that creates something that I shared with you last time, and we'll talk a lot about again tonight, is compression. And compression is basically the idea, if I've been here 5 years and I make $25,000, and someone else is hired today and they make $25,000, we make the same amount of money, but one person has been here much longer than the other. And it can occur anywhere in the pay plan, although it's typically most pronounced in the lower portion of the pay plan, among those employees that work for you that make the least amount of money, that have been here the least amount of time, and in many cases are still in that window of deciding, is this the place for me or not? And so as a result, turnover is not only driven by compression, but compression is one of the factors that lead to employees deciding, I'll go somewhere else because at least I have the hope of moving up from a pay standpoint where I might not have the hope of moving up here at EPCC. The last piece of what they expressed for a major theme in those sessions was a concern with the predictability of raises. This being, if I want to do some financial planning for myself as a person, what can I expect the college to do? And in these fiscal times, even with things improving, it's very hard for a college or any academic institution to commit to, I'm going to provide this amount in raises every year no matter what. However, from an employee standpoint, they had a concern about predictability is very important for them personally. The market analysis, out of 18 responses, we averaged 11 responses per classification that we analyzed, which means out of the 18 that responded, not every single response had every job that's present here at EPCC, keeping in mind that although we were focusing on public employers, we also included counties and cities locally that I could go to work for in comparable jobs, as well as the school district. In addition, we included a vast array of second or two-year schools present here within the state of Texas, and we adjust those for cost of living differential of being in Dallas or Fort Worth or Houston versus being here in El Paso. Among the non-faculty, so when we combine all of your non-faculty jobs that we analyze, the average person begins here at EPCC about 7.6% below the market minimum. So if I start at the minimum here at EPCC, I'm about 7% behind on average what I would make somewhere else. Now, I want to put that in context. That's not true for every job. That's the average for all the jobs that we looked at. Some jobs would be doing better. Some jobs might be doing worse than the 7.6%, but that's the average among the jobs that were examined among your non-faculty positions. If I remain with the college, by the time I reach midpoint, I'm basically at what I would make somewhere else. But what we know from the analysis that we conducted, as well as the comments that employees were good enough to share with us, is it's very hard here to make that move through the range over time. And if I don't move quickly through the range, I never get to, or I don't move through that range at all, I never get to that point where I'm more on average with the market, which here at EPCC is much closer to your midpoint within your range. If I do remain and make it to the maximum, I would actually be roughly 4% better than what I would have been among your peers if I had remained the same amount of time and made it to the maximum in that organization. So in essence, what this says from a snapshot standpoint is you start off a little bit behind. If a person moves through the range, they start to catch up, and it's just about worthwhile at the end of that journey if I make it to the maximum of the range on average. Among faculty, we looked at the tables, meaning the minimum and maximum that one of your peers is willing to pay for that faculty position, and we also looked at the actual take-home pay. And why take-home pay sometimes is deceptive is because where the ranges represent the universe of what a person can make, the take-home pay is factoring in things like the age of the workforce, how long people have worked there, what moves that college has made in regards to faculty pay. It also takes into account if the range is the same size as yours, broader or more narrow. So there's other factors that go into that. So typically with faculty, we look at both. When we looked at the tables, we find that a faculty member here at EPCC, again, on average starts off about 4% behind where they would start at another academic institution in Texas or southern New Mexico. By the time I reach midpoint, I'm rewarded, if I do reach midpoint, by being roughly 14% above, and if I were to reach the maximum, one of those few people in your current range structure, I would be about 22% what the average would be for that range among the peers that we reviewed. Among the actual pay, we find it falls in the middle of these results, meaning I'm only about 2% on average behind the actual pay I would receive somewhere else in my take-home pay, about 12% above at the point in which I reach midpoint, and about 19% above if I were to stay long enough to reach maximum in my actual take-home pay in comparison to the actual take-home pay of my peers. So what does this mean? What does it tell us about your structure, and then what are some of the other things that we found about your structure? Your current structure captures the division of labor that you have currently in place very well, meaning the organizational structure you use, the org charts that you have to represent the jobs that are present within the college. You have a system that is sophisticated enough to capture that work and do a good job of capturing that work. So we're not talking about the money, we're talking about the diversity of the type of tasks and duties that I would be involved in as an employee. You do possess a uniform compensation structure, meaning you have a structure that doesn't allow one department or one area to significantly outpace another. There are some places we work where we find certain job families or certain departments are doing a whole lot better versus the market than other departments in that same college or that same university. That's not present here at EPCC. Pretty much all boats are even in regards to where they fall versus their peers. In addition, we find that you have a fair level of fairness or a recognizable level of fairness, meaning you don't have some people that have been here 10 years that make the maximum, where in another department I'm here 10 years and I make the minimum. Basically, I fall roughly in the same place that my peer would fall. Now I'm compressed. I'm toward the bottom of that range when I reach that 10-year point, but everyone else at that 10-year point is down at the bottom with me as well. The third bullet is there is a lack of market adjustment. You're not able to respond on a consistent basis to what's occurring in the market. In an economic downturn, this is slightly less important. In a good economy, this is a detriment, not to have a mechanism that is more responsive to the market. And the last piece is you do possess a fair amount of compression, especially in that first 25% of each of the ranges. The bulk of your compression are among those that are more recently hired or recently promoted here at EPCC. Why is that something you don't want? Well, at the most basic level, from a compensation management standpoint, it's not overly fair. From a practical standpoint, as I mentioned to you before, it leads to behaviors such as reduced performance and productivity, and in the worst case, it leads to me shopping around, to looking at other places I might go to work because I feel like I'm never going to be able to get out of that bottom portion of the range in the organization. What are some improvements or some things that could be done? Your current structure is responsive to your needs, but it does need to be updated based on the market. And so as I shared with you last time, we would like to recommend 2 adjustments to your market structure, and I'll talk about those. Some position titles simply have become antiquated, especially among those titles that represent large private sector industries. They change their titles on a fairly regular basis as technology changes, equipment changes, or duties and responsibilities. You need to keep pace. You don't need to be on the bleeding edge, but you need to keep pace with what people are calling individuals that work on networks, or individuals that work on planning or engineering functions, or individuals that have health backgrounds. Those occupations tend to change a little bit more often from a titling standpoint. These don't cost you any money. They're simply, you're signaling the market by indicating, we know this is what it's called now, and we're calling it that as well. The third bullet is some positions did move based on the market. So what this means is, in your current structure, they fall in a specific grade, and you're compensating them within a specific range between minimum and maximum. That's the wrong minimum and maximum to compensate them at. They need to be at a higher or lower minimum or maximum based on the findings of the study. Part of our charge at beginning this initiative was not to damage or to harm anyone in the study, meaning if we found that the market had slowed or become sluggish, we left those people whole, where if we found that the market moved, we ended up moving them to the higher grade that would represent that market change. That is very, very common among academic institutions. It is very common among public employers in general throughout the country. The fourth bullet is all employees should be adjusted for cost of living. Now that the markets are coming back and Texas has done very well during the downturn, but now the country as a whole is coming back as well, it will be important for you to regularly adjust the compensation of your employees as well as your structure. And the last is you need to address the compression before it becomes a larger turnover, retention, or morale issue within the organization. What are some of the recommendations or improvements that we're bringing before you tonight and we'll be bringing forward as part of our report? We are recommending that you revise all of the job descriptions. Your job descriptions are antiquated and in many ways have not been maintained to the extent that they have among your peers. And so we'll be going through a structured process, as I mentioned, of updating them, working with your cabinet, and then working with your managers in the organization to ensure that strong job descriptions are present throughout the organization. In addition, we are recommending that your non-faculty pay ranges, so we're keeping your structures structured in the same manner, but we are sliding them to the right by 5%. So we're bringing up the minimums by 5%, and that will go through the whole structure. So the minimums move 5, the midpoints move 5, the maximums move 5, as that structure shifts to the right. For the faculty plan, we are recommending a 4% increase by removing the 2 lowest steps that are present within the faculty plan. And so what that does is new people coming in will actually begin a little bit higher than what they would have before based on the findings that are present within the study. What that does, we know, is exacerbate compression, just as this change with the staff plan tends to exacerbate compression. So a key part of one of our follow-up, our sister recommendations to this recommendation, is to address that compression, not just that was present within the organization before, but the additional compression that's caused by these adjustments that we're making to your plan in this pay scale recommendation. There are 2 primary steps that would be affecting employees based on the recommendation that we're making. The first is structural or market-based, and that's moving your pay grades, as well as moving specific classifications into the appropriate pay grade based on what we found with the market data. And the second component, as I mentioned before, would be to address that compression present within the ranges. Every single employee that's included in the study was analyzed for compression. So their individual pay was compared to where they should fall, and we'll give you a few examples, within the range, and there was a cost estimated based on different scenarios for dealing with that compression. And there's not a single approach. There's multiple approaches that you could use. Some are more cost effective, some are more generous. We looked at each of those, discussed each of those with your cabinet, and brought back a recommendation in working with them, but we looked at what would be the impact on each individual employee. So I want to emphasize here, and I'll emphasize hopefully one more time this evening, every single employee that's included in the study was analyzed for these components. It wasn't where one group was and one group was not. For the annual increase standpoint, or for the increase that would come out of this year as part of the study, recognizing that our understanding is there will be cost of living or market adjustment that occurs this year. In addition, we're recommending that a hybrid-based approach be utilized for calculating placement within the range from a parity standpoint. What does a hybrid mean? A hybrid simply means we're combining 2 pieces together. The first piece gives me credit for time at EPCC in my current classification. So if I was promoted in the last year The number that goes into that formula is the number 1. I was promoted and I have been in my current classification 1 year. But we recognize that's not always the most fair thing, because let's suppose that person that was just promoted had been here 20 years before they had been promoted. But they were in a different job. So they wouldn't have been in the range that we're slotting them in now based on their current job. They would have been more than likely in a lower range if they've been promoted. And so we're giving them half credit for the time they spent at EPCC in a lower level job before being in their current job. So it still gives them credit for previous experience with EPCC, but gives them full credit for the time that they've spent in the current classification. If I have been in my current classification 30 years, and I have never done anything else at EPCC, that number becomes 30. In the case of staff, as well as in the case of faculty, we looked at where should they fall based on a 40-year career. Where would they fall within that range? We recognize that the faculty have individual steps, the staff do not, and so in the case of the faculty, we looked at what is the closest step to what we would estimate in regards to the time and classification for the faculty, where with the individual staff, the step didn't matter. We could simply estimate what the value would be, and I'll give you an example of those or talk more about those. So with the staff, if we break down the components we utilize that 40 years, assuming that the time it takes me to move from minimum to maximum is roughly a 40-year career if I remained in the same job. We divided that into segments or components that represent the 40 years, and then we used that hybrid approach of full credit for my current job and 50% credit for each year of any previous job that I've held with the college. The calculation was performed for every single employee. And so there in our third bullet, for example, an employee with 21 years of class time would be slightly above the midpoint, because we would assume that 20 years would be midpoint, while an employee with 40 years of class time, so 40 years in the same job, would be at the maximum based on the calculation. So the half credit then would translate into the next example, or our last example. So here's 20 years of total service. I have 10 years in my current job and 10 years with the college and previous jobs, so I receive 10, or a total of 10 for my 10 years in my current job, and I receive 5 years credit for the 10 years that I worked previously at EPCC in some other job or some other capacity, for a total of 15. So in this case, they would then fall at the 15 mark between 0 and 40 within their pay range, which would be roughly slightly below midpoint. Here's an example that takes into very similar with real numbers or with real range numbers. So I have the 25 years of service, 15 years are in my current job. A hybrid parity becomes 20 because I'm receiving 5 years for the 10 years outside of my current job. I am in TSC. The recommendation is I remain in TSC based on the analysis that we conducted on the market. So my current range has a midpoint of 36,930. After the 5% slide to the right that I mentioned to you to improve the pay plan, now my midpoint is $37,601. And my 2% increase is included there in my COLA. And then we estimate the 40-year hybrid parity amount, which is estimated to be $37,601. And the cost difference between where I'm at now and that estimated value is roughly $606.05. And so in this hypothetical example, not a real example, this individual would receive an annual increase of $606.05 based on their hybrid parity calculation that we conducted, or we completed. With the faculty, again, taking into account that there is the step structure present, we did also look at that 40-year hybrid parity as well, so that we would keep them consistent with what we conducted for the staff. In this case, with the 40-year parity, faculty have less classification change than what the staff do. So where your staff have moved through a couple jobs sometimes before they're in their current job, we found this trend less prevalent among faculty, and I can tell you most places that we work, we find it less common among faculty. It's more I'm a faculty member and I move up into an administrative capacity than I'm a faculty member and I move back to the pure staff side, although there are some exceptions to that. So in this case, we divided the faculty ranges by the highest step and the lowest step into the 40 segments. We estimated based on time with the college in my current classification as a faculty member, where I should fall within those segments, and then we utilized the approach of rounding to either the closest step within the current step plan or the next highest step. And so we estimated both for consideration. Based on those calculations, we were able to identify some that still possessed experience before becoming a faculty member. There are a few individuals that worked in another capacity while completing their master's degree or completing their PhD, and in those cases, they would be addressed with that same hybrid methodology that we utilize for staff, where they would receive half credit before they became a faculty member for those years in conjunction for full credit in their current classification as a faculty member. We are recommending, as part of that analysis, that you do revise the non-faculty as well as the faculty pay plans. We are recommending that you move all employees onto the plans based on our estimates. And we are recommending that you adopt a hybrid parity approach based on 40 years to address the staff as well as to address the faculty. And so those recommendations we brought forward to the Cabinet at this point for their consideration, as well as we're bringing forward to you this evening. Our next steps include, or the next immediate step, includes finalizing the job descriptions. So as we move forward from this point, we will be finalizing those, submitting them to the Cabinet for their review and comment, as I mentioned, and then they'll be disseminated throughout the organization. We'll also be providing the final, well, first the draft, and then the final written report that summarizes each of the steps that went into this project. The recommendations that appear in the last chapter of that report, in Chapter 5, actually mirror the recommendations that are in your PowerPoint this evening, but there's a little bit more detail included. In addition, that report goes into detail of the data that we utilize in this process, and you'll be able to review that as well. In addition, we'll work through the FLSA, and we are cognizant of the fact that the federal government might possibly, as early as January 1st of next year, change the FLSA requirements. And if they do, we've been talking with the staff about we would assist with making some recommendations to you on how to meet that. We are waiting to see what that final determination is, and it's our understanding that public comment ends this month at the federal level. And if that process does end as anticipated, we would assume there'll be some type of indication in November and December, and we would assist you with what would we need to revise in your plans to take into account those FLSA changes. Assuming that the federal government postpones, like they have in the previous 2 years, we're still giving you the recommendations based on the current regulations, so at the point of implementation, in case they do postpone, you can implement those recommendations regardless if the new regs have come out or not. And so we're more than happy to support you either way, and so we'll give you the ones based on the current rules, let you put those in place, and if they change, we'll assist you with the change beginning in January of 2016. So those were the major items that I wanted to share with you. We have enjoyed working with your staff as well as your employees. Everyone has worked very hard on this process. The employees were very participatory. They've been very committed to providing the information that we needed. With the 23 follow-ups that I mentioned to you before, people bent over backwards to provide that information to us. The Cabinet has put in a significant amount of time of reviewing our work, providing comments, challenging us on the recommendations we made, and talking about not just what would work for you today, but in the future. And I want to thank all of those parties for their support as we've gone through this process.
Do you have an estimate date when everything will be completed?
We talked about that some today in the Cabinet meeting, and we would estimate that the job descriptions will take another 30 days. And so, because once we provide them to you, we usually recommend you take about 2 weeks to do that dissemination process and receive feedback. I would anticipate by the time everything is done on them, on your side and on our side, they probably shouldn't be published until after you return for the spring semester. Because that would give you time for, if it does need to trickle down to the supervisor level, because it starts with the Cabinet, then it goes to the director level typically, and then sometimes it even goes to the manager and supervisor level. That gives plenty of time with everything else that's going on for folks to provide that feedback to us. In the case of the report, we'll be finalizing the report in the next 30 days. And so the report is not contingent on the job descriptions. That's a separate cover deliverable that we provide to you. Also recognizing if the job descriptions take a little bit longer, we may actually know about the FLSA by then and what the federal government will do, and then they can be published with the new regs reflected in the job descriptions. And so with the report, we want to go ahead and bring that forward since we've shared this briefing with you this evening as well as the briefing with the Cabinet today. That'll be within the next 30 days, and then the job descriptions could take a little bit longer. And again, we will be available to support you through that FLSA change or at the point of implementation. So we'll be working with finance at the point in which something is adopted and you move forward with the rollout to provide technical expertise on communicating with employees about the exact amount they receive. And that would be dependent on the college, at what point you would want to tie payroll into this.
Any other questions?
I just have one, sir. In the deliverables, are you including providing training for staff so that they can, we can enable them to apply the tables consistently and that's where the discrepancies happen,
Yes, ma'am. Our training focuses on your HR staff and those that finance would designate. And so what we do is spend about a half a day with them. We give them real case scenarios of reclassifications or new job creation. So we have a curriculum that we use for doing that, and they work with us through that day. I can tell you the largest community college in the state of Washington was a client 3 years ago. They still call me probably 3-4 times a month, although their training is long done, and they still say, "Are you really sure we should do this? Do you mind taking a look?" And we're happy to provide that support to you. We still provide that support to clients that I worked with 15, 16 years ago. But your staff will be trained to maintain the structure, and we will go through, here are some of the hiccups typically that occur that can lead to the problems like the ones that we diagnosed as part of this effort. But we are a resource you can draw on as those issues come up again in the future.
And what kind of safeguards do you provide or recommend so that we adhere to the procedures?
There will be some policy recommendations that we make to you in regards to everyone has to be paid within the range. That reclassification should have a reclassification window for approval. There will be some recommendations on the reclassification process, because what we find is the temptation is much greater when the process is very easy. If all I have to do is come into HR and sit down for about 5 minutes and I can convince someone to make a change, then it's something I may go do, because what's 5 minutes? Where if I have paperwork to fill out and there's a review process and there's signatures that are involved, in the institutions that have that type of process, we find that some of those behaviors are less likely, because it requires more for that change to take place. And so we will have what we consider compensation administration recommendations for you that should curtail, I won't say eliminate, but will curtail many of those issues from occurring. And the cabinet has brought up a number of those concerns as well, as we've had our dialogues with them over the last several months of, this is how we got here, what do we need to do to make sure that we end up somewhere else in the future?
Right, otherwise we'll be back in the same predicament in a few years.
That's correct.
We don't have the safeguards in place.
Correct.
Thank you.
Great. No other questions? Okay. Pam, would you please call us into executive?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I had one more. I'm sorry.
No clapping yet, please.
I just had one other on the compression study piece. Did you come up with a figure of?
We have, the figure varies by the caps that we utilize. And so to give you an idea of some of the caps that we've been looking at a cap that would only affect the bottom 25% of each of the ranges, because that's the bulk of where the compression is present. We've also looked if we place the cap at midpoint, so only those employees that fall below midpoint and compressed would be affected. And then in addition, we looked at if everyone in the range, regardless of where they fall, would receive adjustment for compression. And in looking at that, probably 80% of your compression is in the first quartile. Then we add, when we add the second quartile, we add another 15%. And then in the second half, on average of your range, so from midpoint to max, you have about 5% of your compression. So the bulk of your compression is very concentrated, which means there's not a huge amount of cost differential between those different scenarios. However, philosophically, they would lead you in a different direction in the future. It would place priorities, and that's what we're still working on with the cabinet. In working with the budget numbers that you have present, we are close to being able to come up with a scenario that would be within the dollars you have allocated for the next fiscal year, and that's been our goal. And there is some tweaking that we're still doing with the cabinet. The tweaking would not be to the detriment of one employee versus another, so it's not that type of tweaking, but looking at how far can we go to everyone in the range versus just a segment of the range. And so that we haven't finalized. But our goal would be to come in without additional funds with the dollars that you've allocated for implementing the study.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
The Board of Trustees may conduct an executive or closed session pursuant to the Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code for one or more of the following reasons. 1. Consultation with its attorney to seek or receive legal advice or consultation regarding pending or contemplated litigation or for any purpose authorized by law. 2. Discussion about the value or transfer of real property. 3. Discussion about a prospective gift or donation. 4. Consideration of specific personnel matters. 5. Discussion about security personnel or devices. Or 6. Discussion of certain economic development matters. The board may also announce that it will go into executive session on any item listed on this agenda if the subject matter is permitted for a closed session by provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. Any vote regarding these items shall be taken in open session.
Pam, thank you very much. We're ready.
Item 1.9, Board of Trustees business. Item 1.9.1,
Bring us back from executive. Thank you. I mean, if you want.
whatever you'd like, sir. The time is 8:28 p.m. and we will reconvene from executive session. Item 1.9, Board of Trustee business. Item 1.9.1, the Board of Trustees will deliberate on entering into an interlocal agreement regarding intervention in the El Paso Electric Company rate case, Public Utility Commission of Texas, docket number 44941. Pending before the PUC is a proposal to eliminate rate 41. This rate is generally favorable to the college and other local political subdivisions in calculating the charges for electrical services. El Paso Independent School District and other school districts are challenging the rate change, and it is recommended that the college join with them in opposing the elimination or change to this rate.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, Pam, question, please.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Mr. Uxer. Ms. Solis. Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Fierro.
Aye. Pam, I failed to add this item on there, please. 1.9.2. We've been invited. I'm asking the board to support the American Association of Community Colleges on applying for a grant for pathway projects.
Move to approve.
Any questions? Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Mr. Uxer. Ms. Solis. Mr. Haggerty. Mrs. Quintanilla. Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 1.10, Board Reports. Item 1.10.1, Treasurer's Report, none. Item 1.10.2, President's Report. Item 1.10.2.1, Dr. William Serrata, President, will update the Board of Trustees and audience on recent events that have transpired at the college.
Chair Farrow, members of the board, I certainly excited to report on a couple of items of accolades and good news with regards to El Paso Community College. This fall, after a number of fall decreases in enrollment, we have seen and reversed that trend and saw a little over 1.5% increase in enrollment, about 450 student increase in enrollment. So we're at 28,409 students, again an increase from what we saw last fall. Would like to thank all of the college for all the efforts in increasing enrollment, creating a college-going culture, the partnerships that we have with our 12 independent school districts, as well as UTEP and the Collaborative for College Readiness, to really focus on increasing enrollment. So certainly appreciate everyone's efforts. Many of the divisions, VP Gonzalez is in her area, lots of effort on increasing dual credit. Our non-credit enrollment is also up. Mr. Smith in his area, technology played an incredible role. But everyone worked really hard, very, very pleased with the increase in enrollment, and the expectation is that that trend will continue. I do want to thank again everyone for participating in Professional Development Day. We streamed live out of the Trans Mountain campus, where we provided a state of the college address. Vice President Gonzalez emceed. Vice President Shaughnessy provided an overview of the district-wide campus master plan process, as well as the compensation and classification study. I was able to provide the college with a state of the college address, which we asked and brought attention to celebrated our achievements, but also provided focus of goals, very specific goals of where we're headed and the expectation of what those goals will be, who's accountable for those goals, and to continue to move the institution forward. El Paso Community College, the Prudential Company and Workforce Opportunity Services have partnered together to offer a program to train, and I'll pass this to the left and then I'll pass to the right, Chair. Have partnered together to offer a program to train and transition retired or recently separated military members and spouses from the military environment to corporate America. The training provided by EPCC allows individuals the opportunity to gain relevant skills. It's customized training, by the way, to gain relevant skills and become a part of a Fortune 50 company. This opportunity has permitted participants to create an additional career after serving their country. Additionally, the partnership has allowed the students to develop their educational goals on completing a post-secondary degree and to enhance their skills and potential for employment. At the most recent Prudential graduation, held on August 26th, Texas Representative Cesar Blanco, a past EPCC student, served as the keynote speaker. To date, 26 participants have been successfully trained by EPCC and the Workforce Opportunity Services and placed in positions at Prudential. A third cohort will commence a 16 to 233K Information Technology Quality Assurance Associate program in October. I want to recognize the following EPCC employees who have been instrumental in this successful partnership program. Ms. Kathy Lopez, our Interim Associate Vice President for Workforce and Continuing Ed. Luz Tawada, Director of Workforce Development. Jose Casa Lopez, our Program Manager in Youth Build Grant. Estela Ortiz, Program Specialist for Workforce Development. Hilda Diaz, Administrative Assistant for Workforce Development. Marisela Barrios, Program Assistant, Career Training Center, and Azalia Rosales, Program Assistant for Youth Build Grant. Also would like to recognize, yes, thank you all so much, well done. Would like to recognize, I don't see him in the audience, he usually is, Mr. Felix Hinojosa. And so two members of our board serve in this respective area as well, but he is going to be one of the honorees at the 16th Annual Hispanos Triunfadores. He will be honored for the award in education. That will be held on Wednesday, September 30th at the El Paso Marriott. So very much kudos to Mr. Hinojosa and the great job that he's done for the college. And finally, I would like to recognize, and I will start here and then end at the podium, I'd like to recognize Mr. Steve Smith, our Vice President for Instruction and Workforce Education, who is the 2015 NCIA, and NCIA is the National Council of Instructional Administrators Emerging Leader of the Year Award recipient. So Mr. Smith, he was recognized. NCIA is an affiliate council of the American Association of Community Colleges, and as such evaluated nominations based on the AACC competencies for community college leaders, which include organizational strategy, institutional finance and resource management, communication, collaboration, and community college advocacy. Mr. Smith was nominated by his deans in recognition of his exemplary leadership, active involvement in scaling up student success initiatives, and his standard practice of maintaining an open-door policy for faculty and staff. He was also recognized for his equitable support and leadership in the successful hiring of 50 new full-time faculty by ensuring that the deans had the necessary physical, technological, and budgetary resources to bring the new faculty on board in record time for the start of the fall semester. Finally, as quoted by his deans, Mr. Smith's greatest strength is that he treats everyone with kindness, compassion, and respect, and he has managed to build a strong, productive instructional team that works well together for the good of our students, his top priority. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, congratulations, Mr. Smith. There's no better reward than being recognized by your staff for the work you do every day in creating an environment where individuals feel appreciated. You've clearly earned their respect through your contributions and achievements as their Vice President. I'll pass to the Board a copy of the letter that was submitted to me on behalf of NCIA in recognition of Mr. Smith. It's signed by Amy Lee Fugate, Dr. Amy Lee Fugate, who's the NCIA president. So I'll share this with the board, and then I'll come up to the podium if Mr. Smith can join me so we can provide him with his award.
Just before I say hi to the board, I just want to say that this reflects the incredible innovation and efforts from the Instructional and Workforce Education Division. The deans and the faculty and staff that work in the area do incredible work every day. And as Olga said earlier, although I'm the one in front of you today receiving this award, it's because of the work that everybody else does every day. So we thank them for all the work. And I would ask that the deans and faculty present, along with their staff, please stand and be recognized as well. Thank you so much.
Come on up here. You're not retired. Congratulations again, Mr. Smith. Chair Fierro, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Serrata.
Item 1.11, consent docket, which includes items 3.2 and 8.1. Move to approve. Second. Mrs. Robles. Aye. Mr. Uxer. Aye. Ms. Solis. Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla. Dr. Graham.
No.
Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 2.0, administration, none. Item 3.0, personnel. Item 3.1, full-time institutionally funded actions.
I make a motion to approve item 3.1 and 3.2.
3.3.
0.2 is consent.
No, just 3.1, sorry. No, just 3.1.
3.1. Mrs. Robles. Aye. Mr. Uxer. Ms. Solis. Mr. Haggerty. Aye. Mrs. Quintanilla. Mrs. Quintanilla.
I think we know.
You want to say it? Huh? Yes. Yes. Dr. Graham. But 1.11 is yes. Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 3.3, information items, no action is required. Item 4.1, consideration and deliberation on the approval of a license agreement for Adobe's Creative Cloud from JourneyEd.com Incorporated in the annual amount of $91,532.
Make a motion to approve 4.1 and 4.2.
Second. Item 4.2, consideration and deliberation on the approval of the renewal of a software license agreement for SaaS Business Intelligence with SaaS Institute Incorporated in the amount of $58,510.
Questions?
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Mr. Uxer. Ms. Solis. Mr. Haggerty. Mrs. Quintanilla. Dr. Graham. Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 4.3, consideration and deliberation on the approval of the adoption of the order and the certificate of order setting tax rate of 0.133811 per $100 valuation, which is a 4% increase in the effective tax rate for fiscal year 2015-2016.
Move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of the tax rate of .133811, which is effectively a 4% increase in the tax rate.
Second. Questions?
Ms. Shaughnessy has asked that I read the order setting the tax rate. Whereas the Board of Trustees of said district has received, accepted, and approved the certified appraisal roll for the 2015 tax year, and whereas the district has calculated those tax rates and made such other calculations as required by law, and whereas the Board of Trustees of said district wishes to adopt a tax rate, therefore be it ordered by the Board of Trustees of the El Paso County Community College District that the maintenance and operation tax rate for the district for the 2015 tax year be set and adopted in accordance with Chapter 26 of the Texas Tax Code entitled the Property Tax Code as follows. Operations tax rate 0.133811 per $100 valuation for a total of 0.133811 per $100 valuation. This tax rate will raise more taxes for maintenance and operations than last year's tax rate. The tax rate will effectively be raised by 4% and will raise taxes for maintenance and operations on a $100,000 home by approximately $5.69.
Need a motion for that?
Already made it. So I'm going to call the vote now. Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Mr. Uxer. Ms. Solis.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla. Dr. Graham. Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 5.1, consideration and deliberation on the approval of a contract award with Sunlight Enterprise Company Incorporated to provide construction services for the Student Union addition to the Trans Mountain campus in an amount not to exceed $526,274.
Motion to approve.
Questions?
I move to approve.
Dr. Graham made the motion?
She seconded.
I made the motion.
Okay.
You
Ms.
and Mrs.
Robles.
Robles. Any questions?
Call the vote, please.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Mr. Uxer.
Aye.
Ms. Solis. Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla. Dr. Graham. Mr. Fierro.
Abstain.
Item 5.2, consideration and deliberation on the approval of the purchase of vehicle fuel from Alon USA LP in an amount not to exceed $175,000 per year.
Motion to approve item 5.2 and item 6.1.
Second.
Second the motion.
Item 6.1, consideration and deliberation on the approval to award a one-year contract to Mesilla Valley Training Institute in an amount not to exceed $255,500.
I have a question on 6.1. This does include diesel mechanics, actually training the mechanics on the diesel engines?
Yes, sir. It sure does, Mr. Haggerty. We do both truck driving and diesel mechanic training.
Have we
with
done
them.
that in the past?
Yes, sir.
Wow. No. Not this week.
Pam, the question, please.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Mr. Uxer. Ms. Solis.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla. Dr. Graham. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
It was no.
Thank you. Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 7.1, consideration and deliberation on the approval of a contract award to Motorola Solutions Incorporated for the purchase of a new police radio communications system in an amount not to exceed $475,803.
Move to approve.
Second. Chief, this will put us in compliance with all, I'm sorry, Ms. Gonzalez, will this put us in compliance with all the Homeland Security?
Yes, sir, it will. By obtaining this new radio communication system, it'll put us in compliance with the Homeland Security as well as being able to talk to all the other law enforcement agencies in the county. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You just can't buy your cell phones?
No.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Mr. Uxer. Ms. Solis.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla.
Aye.
Dr. Graham. Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 7.2, consideration and deliberation on the approval of continuing education tuition rates for new courses.
Second.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Mr. Uxer. Ms. Solis. Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla. Mrs. Quintanilla.
Aye.
Dr. Graham. Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 7.3. Item 7.3, consideration and deliberation on the approval of continuing education tuition rates for revised courses.
Second.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Mr. Uxer. Ms. Solis. Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla.
Aye.
Dr. Graham. Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 9.0, unfinished business.
Yes, one item. We need to make a motion to direct Mr. Dunbar to execute the items that we discussed in executive session.
And that would include your authorizing Dr. Serrata to conclude and settle the cases of, excuse me, Wright versus College, Gamboa versus College, and Arvizo versus College.
Move to approve.
Second.
You can call the question.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Mr. Uxer. Ms. Solis. Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla.
Aye.
Dr. Graham. Mr. Fierro.
Aye. Before I make a motion to adjourn, our next board meeting is scheduled for October 28th, 5 p.m. at back. Yeah, let's go to Donna Anna this time. That's the next one. There's several one there. But give me- Okay, motion to adjourn.
You know, if we could have
All in favor of adjournment?